this is what it's looked like for the past month or so, and I figured, why not show it to you? So, as we go through the shelves, I'm gonna stop and talk about each book briefly, but if you're interested more in like my full ratings and reviews, definitely add me on Goodreads. I have it linked in the description box, and if your favorite book is missing from my shelf and you want to send it to me, I do have a TBR wish list also linked in the description box. So yeah, let's do it. Okay, so this was my first initial bookshelf that I've had since I moved out for college, and so most of the books on this shelf are throwbacks, children, middle school, stuff like that. Since I don't use this shelf as often, it's not directly in my book nook, but we will go through it nonetheless. Okay, so starting here on the bottom shelf, this is my children's library. I do not have a child, but I find it important to read and collect children's books, and a lot of these are from when I was a child. So over here we have like the really, really young children's books. Some of my favorites are the Little Dreamers books. These are so good. Click Clack Moo, How's That Type, Corduroy. This is one of my favorite children's books of all time. Shel Silverstein, duh. Then we have an extensive collection of Diary of a Wimpy Kid novels. These are actually my boyfriend Josh's. We got Jenny B. Jones, the March graphic novels, Bone graphic novels, and then these right here are more of the middle grade, older children's books, like chapter books. A lot of these I actually accumulated because I took a children's literature course in college, and I ended up like buying all of the books that we read because they were so good. A few standouts. We obviously have some Roald Dahl classic, You May Already Be a Winner by Andy Ellis. I've talked about this before. I love this book. Tale of Despereaux, I have 2 editions of. My favorite children's book, Kira Kira, is a really, really gorgeous story. And then just over here on the side we have some magazines. Most of them are Thrasher magazines, which again are my boyfriend's, but yeah, this is like the children's shelf. Moving up a shelf, this is my middle school nostalgia shelf, I guess you could say. Starting over here, we do have Midnight Sun. I have yet to read this, but I put it on this shelf because, well, Twilight was all the rage back in the day. I did read Twilight, but I don't have the books. A lot of these I'm like missing. You'll notice like I only have the first Divergent book, but I've read all of them. I just don't know where a lot of the books are. But these are the remnants of my middle school shelves. So we have Eleanor and Park. Love, love, love that book. The Perks of Being a Wallflower, another one of my favorites. Some John Green, the Mary Lou Legend trilogy, but I, for some reason, am missing the first one. The I Hunt Killers trilogy. This was my favorite trilogy in middle school. So good. I have all 3 books. Yeah, okay. Then we're gonna move up another shelf. On the left-hand side, we have my nonfiction books that I have already read. So we have the Dave Cullen books, which I really enjoyed. A Sucky Love Story by Brittany Louise Taylor. This is one of the most insane nonfiction books I've ever read. Highly, highly recommend. Classics. We have our mass market paperback classics, which I actually hate mass market paperbacks, so eventually I want to rebuy these books in a normal paperback size. But we have Wuthering Heights, which I have yet to read, Picture of Dorian Gray, another one I really want to read, Wicked, my favorite musical. I started this, but I never finished it. To Kill a Mockingbird, we have 2 copies. One of them was mine in high school, and one of them was Josh's, and I bet you can guess which was which. Then over here we have our regular paperback versions of classics. So, The Old Man and the Sea, probably my least favorite book I've ever read in my life. Lord of the Flies, you already know. Slaughterhouse-Five, I need to read that. Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, Great Gatsby, one of my favorites. Lolita and Belchar, I still need to read. We have both S.E. Hinton's Outsiders and Rumblefish, and then a compilation of Edgar Allan Poe's stories. So that is my classics collection thus far. I don't really read too many classics, but nonetheless. Okay, and then up here on the top shelf, this is like my rejects shelf. So these are books that either are like 50 Shades of Grey and Trainspotting. I don't see myself reading for a long time. 50 Shades of Grey I'm just not interested in. Trainspotting I didn't realize was the second book in a series, so I need to get the others before I can read it. But then these 4 books are romance books that I just didn't enjoy enough to like display on my main romance shelf, which we'll talk about later. We have Ugly Love and It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. Just not great. Funny You Should Ask was very disappointing, and Red Clocks was really good, but it actually just took up too much space on my shelf. So these are just books that I didn't know where to put, so I put them here. And then next to the books we have a Little Wayne Pop Funko, which is nicely covering up the Anna Todd books that I have. Yeah, do not ask me why I have the entire After series. It was like $20 on Amazon, and I bought it, and then I read the first book, and now I'm just trying to cover up that time in my life and forget about it. But that is the first bookshelf in all of its glory, and now we will thriller, basically just like everything else that doesn't really have a place. So we have 2 of the Akatar books. We have Pride and Premeditation, which is a historical murder mystery romance, female of the species. This is a 5 stars. I don't even know how to describe this book, but go read it. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, which I haven't read yet, but I'll maybe get to one day. Scythe by Neil Shusterman is a dystopian YA series. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. My Gillian Flynn books. I have Sharp Objects and Gone Girl, my favorite thriller writer. Verity by Colleen Hoover, I think is Colleen Hoover's best book and probably the only one worth reading. And then Pet Sematary by Stephen King. And then moving up to the next shelf. This is my baby. This is my big old display for the icon, the legend, Holly Black. Specifically, the Folk of the Air trilogy, my favorite series of all time. I don't know if I've talked about this specifically on my ASMR channel, but if you follow me elsewhere, you've probably heard me talk about it because I cannot shut up about these books. I love them so much. So I do have them on display. These are the Barnes & Noble exclusive editions, which I had to pay way too much money to get my hands on. So they are displayed. We have the first book, The Cruel Prince, the second book, The Wicked King, and the third book, The Queen of Nothing. This trilogy is a YA fantasy with a romance subplot, and it is so good. If you take any book recommendations from this video, read these. So I have the exclusive editions on display, and then over here I have the original copies, which I read. I'm actually planning on rereading them this December and annotating them, but I haven't done that yet. And then the novella of the series, How the King of Elfame Learned to Hate Stories, is right there. And then I just have my other Holly Black books. So I have the Iron Trial, which is the first book in a series. It's a middle grade series, I believe, that was written by Holly Black and Cassandra Clare. It looks a little rough, but it's a first edition. So, and then I have my 2 copies of her adult fantasy book, Book of Night. I have the original, and then I believe this is like the Lumi Crate exclusive edition, and it is signed. So, yeah. Then I have this little bee that I got from Target in like the dollar section. I don't even know. And this rock that's spray painted black. But yeah, I love Holly Black. That's pretty much the moral of the story. Okay, moving up to the top of the shelf. We do have a few more books. These are my recently bought books. This is like the most frequent of my TBR. All the rest of my TBR books are on that shelf, but for ones that I bought within the past few weeks, I've just been putting them here to fill the space. There's no rhyme or reason to them, but yeah, we have Their Eyes Were Watching God. This is a classic that was recommended to me by a friend. Really excited to read. We have the Infernal Devices series, all 3 books. Probably the prettiest spines I have ever seen. We have some dark academia books I'm going to read this fall. We have Girlhood, which is a collection of like short stories from Melissa Fabos. And then we have Something Wilder, which is a romance book by Christina Lauren. This is a signed edition, and it's set in Utah where I live. So these are the most recent of books that I've purchased. We also just have some plants and stuff, and then this little crocheted piece I got on Etsy. It is a quote and reference from the Folk of the Air trilogy that we talked about just recently, by Holly Black. If you know, you know. It's just, this is one of my favorite parts of the entire book nook. I love it. I think it's stunning. Now we are moving on to this shelf right here. This is my Tbr shelf. So every book that you see on here I have yet to read, except for the ones on the top, which we'll talk about. These are my Sally Rooney books. We have Beautiful World, Where Are You? In an Arc. We have Normal People, We have My Year of Rest and Relaxation, A Little Life, Beautiful World, Where Are You by Sally Rooney, The Midnight Library, John Green's latest fiction release, Turtles All the Way Down, Vladimir by Julia May Jones, and The Lifestyle by Taylor Hahn. And then moving to the left, this is my fantasy book shelf. So we have Carry On by Rainbow Rowell, Grace Lang, The House in the Cerulean Sea, All Our Hidden Gifts, Sarah J. Maas, Crescent City, King of Battle and Blood, Another Holly Black, The Coldest Girl in Cold Town, and Ember in the Ashes, and then the collector's edition of Six of Crows by Lee Bardugo. I need to get the second book as well, but yeah, those are all the fantasy. Most of them are YA. I'm a big YA fantasy gal. Okay, then moving down here in this little cubby, we have a container full of bookmarks and random Legos. Those Legos fell off of my Lego floral bouquet when my cat Sushi knocked it over. And instead of fixing it, I threw the Legos in here. So ignore that. But it's just full of random bookmarks. And then we have a pen if I want to annotate. And this stamp, which is one of my favorite things that I own. I got it on Etsy. And I go in and I stamp inside all of my books. So they say From the Library of Haley Sherbold, which is iconic. So you won't catch me lending out a book and people not realizing that it's mine, because they will constantly be reminded that they have my book. But yeah, and then next to that we have my romance TBR. We have Book Lovers by Emily Henry. Super excited to read it. The Song of Achilles, Pride and Prejudice, Love is a Revolution, Emergency Contact, Red, White, and Royal Blue. And then we have 3 Book of the Month's romances. Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. It's her brand new release. And then we have 2 by Helen Wong, The Bride Test and The Kiss Quotient. So yeah. Underneath that, this is my nonfiction / poetry TBR. We have some really good stuff down here. We have Time is a Mother, which is a poetry collection by Ocean Vuong. We have Know My Name, which is a memoir by Chanel Miller. She was the woman involved and who was assaulted by Brock Turner, and that's her story. We have Bachelor Nation by Amy Goffman. Will I read that? I honestly don't know. Back in like 2018, 2019, I went through a Bachelor phase, and I bought that book then, and I still haven't read it, but it's like a nonfiction book discussing the show and what goes on